and welcome to this new episode, the April episode of the Hot Seat. Now, the one interesting thing I wanted to talk to you about is, about a year ago we launched Broken Arrow, and we all sort of here know what it was, what kind of experience it was like. But there was one thing that stuck to my mind, which is this interesting distinction between the game and what we create as developers and publishers, and then the reaction of players, and how there is a sort of a divide between the expectations and the actual delivery of a product. It's a kind of a complex relationship. It's a relationship between, there's a grand plan of a designer or a game director or someone who's got like this vision of a game that suddenly hits the market and the players' feedback, and there is always this this moment of truth in game development. That's when finally players get in their hands and on a game and they sort of realize what it's all about, and on the other side, the developers and publishers see what that impact is, and if it's true that a good game, a good plan, is only surviving, is never surviving the test of a battlefield. That there's no game that survives, the impact with the players without its casualties. Now, the strategy gaming segment is kind of different and peculiar in the sense because we make games that are very much system-based. So the first thing you really need to test most of the time is the systems, the core gameplay loop, and if that works, that doesn't work, and so on, if that resonates with the players. Then you have to start testing other things like balance, bugs, replayability, and a number of other things that other games do test as well. But it's a constant back and forth, and this constant back and forth with players has now come to a point where basically you can never make a game in isolation. So it's impossible to sort of create a game and then release it and then hope for the best, or get some feedback after the fact. This whole concept of creating games as almost like as open laboratories, it's been growing over the years, and in a world where games are always in active development, there's a component of this player interaction that influence game development. So very, very soon in the development cycle, the players are giving advice. Not as in sort of directing the game or sort of forcing the game to be something different, but as in impacting game development process. I remember there was this slogan in the early 2000s, I think it was GameStop, that was power to the players. Well, I think that never like now players have an immense power, and I would say this to the players, as you all know, from great powers come great responsibilities, so make good use of it. This is the Hot Seat. Let's begin. Right, yeah, so it's been a very, 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 very busy month since last time we saw each other. Here for us, massively busy. I think I've been mostly out of the office in traveling and in shows, but also in terms of announcements and releases, there's been a lot happening. So let's try and go down the most recent news, see what we've got in-house for you and what other developers and publishers have been doing. Of course, if we go in order of importance by wishlist numbers, tomorrow is the release date for Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. This is a game with over 1.5 million wishlists. So there's going to be a lot of attention from tomorrow onwards on this game, which is an interesting mix because there's a development team who's doing an exceptional job at reviving Heroes of Might and Magic after a few missteps along the way. There's Ubisoft, there's Hooded Horse. It's an interesting collaboration, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. But if I'm going with the numbers, this is going to be a game that's polarizing the attention of the strategy gaming media and over for some time. So it's releasing in early access tomorrow. You probably know that. For sure, it's going to be the game of the month. In other news on games that are released already, we have Xenonos 2, who released out of early access at the beginning of this month. Again, a very, very good experience in terms of early access with a very positive set of results and feedback from the players. But now in 1.0, a huge bump into active players and another big success for Hooded Horse. So big congratulations on that. This was released on April 2nd. On April 9th was release of City Builder Pompeii. We have mentioned this in past episodes as a sort of a trend of historical city builders. The game has been successful, and the feedback from the players has been really positive too. So give it a go. It's released since April 9th. Out of other base game releases, Repterra released yesterday. It's just released. Can't say about feedback from players. We know that we like this game, since its demos and the first forays into being in the hands of players. So it's good that we mentioned. We'll probably cover it in future episodes to see how it went and if it was successful and if players liked it. It's also been a big month for DLCs. There has been quite a lot of DLCs released in the last 4 weeks. Namely, of course, one big DLC for Victoria, which we mentioned in the previous episode, the Great Wave. This is like the sort of maritime Victoria 3 DLC released yesterday. Again, soon to say what's the feedback on the DLC, but I always find it really sort of fascinating how Paradox always finds really new ways to sort of expand their games. Usually, you play them and you're like how can it be bigger? And I keep getting bigger. It's just fascinating how this keeps happening over time. Also, there is a new chapter on Crusader Kings 3 that was released just about a week ago. And this is, I guess you can say from the key art, the theme of the current chapter of Crusader Kings 3, that is definitely being very well received. So you want to check it out. In terms of other DLCs, I think there's a common pattern, as in there's DLCs being released for very big legacy games during this month. Yesterday was release of the second DLC for Commandos Origins. The DLC is called No Man Left Behind, released yesterday. And there's also been a release of a DLC, I think last week, for the Age of Mythology Retold game, which called Obsidian Mirror. Interestingly, there's a lot of revival for these games, and not only they're reviving the games, but then they're adding more content to them. So, and this is a kind of a topic that we're going to touch on today with our guests, how much of the legacy franchises are leaving, in the current market as very successful and positive experiences. On the other hand, of course, we've got newer games that get DLCs. So there has been an announcement for a new Frostpunk 2 DLC called Breach of Trust. And there's been an announcement for a new Age of Empires 4 DLC recently. You Face Legacy. This is releasing on May 7th. In other news, the release of the first DLC for Terraformers called Independence. That's been released in mid-April and adds a lot of new content to the original Terraformers game, which was already quite big. So big props to the development team there. In last bit of news, Ultimate General Civil War, which is a game that's like dearest to our hearts because of the wargaming roots, now has a console version. So check out the PlayStation and Xbox version that were released on April 1st. I swear it's not been an April's fool. So this is for the news. The number of news, a lot of big news, a lot of big new releases. We know that May, June are also going to be big months for new releases. I hope there's going to be space for everyone. I know it's an interesting hope to have. We know that how hard the market is out there, but there's so much exciting stuff happening that we want to make sure that everyone gets a little bit of visibility. All right, so let's give a little break, and I'll have my first guest when we're back. All right, so my first guest today is the head of design at a historic studio for strategy games, Relic, and his name is Philippe Boulle.
Hello.
Nice to see you,
nice
Phil.
to see you.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us.
Great pleasure.
Phil, head of design.
Yes.
What does a head of design do?
Mostly solve problems.
Okay.
Mostly I am in charge of our design discipline, so helping our designers work together, do even better. Also helping guide the creative vision for the studio, and then also helping with business development.
All right. So because you work on many different games at the same time, the head of design is kind of overlooking every one of these projects?
Yes, I definitely have. Now each project has its own design director who are extremely talented, and my job is just to help support them, make sure they have the resources they need, make sure they have the information they need, they have the access they need in order to do their jobs. And then
having been previously design director, you know what they need, right?
Well, I know what questions to ask. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And I'm also there to represent them with studio leadership and make sure that we're all aligned and working towards the same goals.
It's interesting. So you kind of create a sort of, should I say, a philosophy or like a set of pillars for the company's design.
Yeah, I like to think of it as forging our design culture. So making sure our designers are working well together, sharing information, and are able to look up from their games every once in a while and see what's on the horizon. And then pairing that with a clearer sense of where Relic is going, what we want to do.
How do you do this in a company that does both, like, internally developed franchises, IPs, and so on, but also doing like serving for, I don't know, we call it third-party development, or so how do you sort of keep that core, these set of core values within such a varied number of games?
Well, so there's two parts to that question for me. One is we do have to serve the needs of each game, and that's always going to be different game to game. When we think of something like Age of Empires 4, where we worked with Microsoft, obviously that franchise has a long history that predates Relic's involvement with it, and we needed to come to that with a great deal of respect for that history. But the reason people want to work with us is that, that legacy that we bring and that design vision that we bring. So making sure we can pair those two things together and do what is best for the individual game it's part of what I'm trying to bring to the table.
In the role you're having, like across different games, are you feeling kind of less attached to projects? Is it something that you experience that you're like, you see them from a further away and you're able to sort of apply a different type of science to them?
To a certain degree. Okay. I will say I still bring a lot of love for these projects, so I do feel very strongly about them and want them to succeed, and love that we're working on them. But because I'm not only dealing with that one project, I can bring a perspective that is a little different. And most importantly, I can see when one project is tackling a problem another project has run into.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And sort of create opportunities for people to share information, share lessons, and go forward together.
Yeah. Not willing to sort of putting a left field one on this, but just came to mind that Gabe Newell recently said something like, I stopped doing game development because every time I suggested anything, people would go like, yes, we'll do it, just because it was me asking for it. Is there any kind of power wrangling type thing in this kind of having a game director, someone sitting above? Is it something that you experience at all?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to understand that your words carry weight. I believe greatly in giving ownership to the team and making sure they understand that when I'm bringing in, comments, that's what they are. They are comments. I'm not coming in ordering people to do anything. I will say I experienced that to a greater degree when I stepped into the project design director role several years ago. And there, I was used to being a senior designer among many and, fighting to get my opinion out and so on. And then suddenly I was in a place where I would say something offhand and then it would just magically get done. And I realized that can be an intoxicating bit of power, but it's not often what's best for the game, right? Like, you want the people who own the game and understand it to its core to take in your feedback, but be able to filter it and find the best solution for the game.
It's almost not an opinion anymore. It's more like
exactly.
I feel like it's my opinion, but it doesn't transpire as an opinion.
So I try to remain aware of that so that I am sort of giving my feedback in a frame of, okay, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I think the player is going to see when they come in contact with this. Help me understand how we can make a change so the player is having a better experience, or tell me the thing I'm not seeing. And let's work on making sure that comes through to the player.
That's really cool. If I think about everything that Relic has done, there's Company of Heroes, there's Dawn of War, working on Age of Empires, and it's like huge names, right? There's
Yep.
not many companies that can say that works so many different, like use this very nice word that we use in product description, genre-defined games, right? So, how do you feel like that? Do you feel like a sense of like responsibility towards those IPs and brands?
I feel a sense of responsibility to the fans and the audiences who play them. IPs and brands are, they're important things to think about and so on, but they're not people. The people who play the games, who shell out their money to play the games and allow me to have a salary, those are the people I feel responsible towards.
What is the current relationship with your? What type of relationship do you have with
we
players?
have a very good relationship with our fans. I have to give a shout out to our community team, who do a wonderful job making sure we have wonderful channels of communication, whether it's Discord and other things, and also ways to interact directly with community councils and groups of people that we can bring in to look at software and really sort of talk deeply about how they're feeling about this, about both the live game in some cases and content that's coming up. I try to approach that with a sense of humility. Like I say, these are people who have invested a lot of passion in playing these games, have shelled out money to play these games, and they will see things that I will not see, just like I will see things they don't necessarily see, and sort of squaring that circle is part of game development, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's interesting because it's always going to be a love-hate relationship, and I like it that you focus on the love part, and that makes a lot of sense. You're sitting here, and it makes sense that you do that. But how do you manage the relationship? As in, because I was mentioning at the opening that we almost need the feedback of the players earlier on in development, like as opposed to what we did like maybe 10 years ago, where
absolutely.
We were kind of far detached from the players. How do you manage, how you adapt your development schedule, development process to players' reactions?
Yeah, so there's two important pillars to that, I think. One is early in development, really sort of diving into what the audience is looking for, what particular audience a particular game is going for, what their expectations are, and really trying to understand that at a deep level and using that to guide development decisions. That doesn't mean just sort of the audience says they like this feature, so we should do this feature, but understanding what they're trying to get from the game and what they dislike in that game space, and then using that. And then the second part is validating that as you develop, and especially once you're in a live environment where you can do ahead of release, you can do focus groups, you can do user testing, and all of those are super valuable, and I wouldn't give them up for the world, but it's not the same thing as a game is out in the wild, people are reacting to it, people are seeing things that you didn't see before, or people are valuing or prioritizing things you didn't think about as highly, and you just have to react to that. You have to work with them.
Do you actually draw a line at some point, like this is the game, it won't change, and this is the feedback from the players, help me change parts of the game? Where is the line? Is there a predefined line, or is it very adaptable, but at some point you say this is not doable?
I think you do have to have some core principles for a game that are pretty rock solid. When we've done a lot of sequels over the last decade or so or more, And that creates a challenge of its own because there's an established community. That's a great asset, but it also creates expectations. You can't go stray too far from the formula. You can also get criticized if you don't make enough changes. So you do have to be careful there. And I think in that case, the community is sort of carrying that legacy for you, and you want to respect that. With a completely new game, then you want to have you're maybe a little less flexible, at least in terms of you're more sort of setting out the pillars and saying, okay, this is what this game is. Let's test that we're actually hitting the market that we're looking for, or the audience that we're looking for.
Yeah, there's probably a big difference between. I mean, you've gone through a number of different experiences, like building something from scratch, building I don't know. I mean, the definitive edition. I don't know what you call it. It's like the definitive edition of something, which is a remaster, something, and basically improving all parts and really releasing. You've done a new chapter in the long-standing franchise. There's probably going to be different aspects of these that are of very, very difficulty. But what has been the hardest part, hardest of these to put together?
So they all have their challenges. They all have their joys as well. I would say in my experience, the sort of full-featured sequel in a beloved series has been the greatest challenge, because there's a lot of expectation that comes with it, especially if there's different audiences that have sort of clashing expectations. That can be very challenging. And it's also, we live in there's an environment where a sequel has to compete with the has to meet the same needs as the previous game and all the support it has received, right? So, you're coming in and you're doing, Company of Heroes 3, and people will compare it, rightly so, to Company of Heroes 2, but after having got a whole bunch of DLC and a whole bunch of tuning and a whole bunch of balancing and so on. So that can be a challenge. Can you
elaborate a bit on the idea of the conflicting expectations? How do you experience that? How do you see that?
Well, it sort of depends on the game. So Dawn of War, for example, the first Dawn of War and the second Dawn of War are fairly different games. They have, especially in the single player campaign, they have quite different focuses, and both were successful. But so when you come to do a follow-up, you have to decide which elements you want to take from one and the other, and that can be challenging.
And you poll this, or you just go for?
Oh, you do some research, you do interviews, you do focus groups, and go for it. But you don't always get it right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've got like a very good history with Company of Heroes 3 of a game that had a bit of a rocky launch.
Yep.
And then over time, sort of recovered massively, I would say, and is now, probably keep being in a constant top 10 of most played RTS in the world, right? How did that happen? What's the process to get you from rocky launch, probably not happy days, to now?
So the first thing I have to say is I'm extremely proud of the team that has put in that work. That took a lot of effort. I mean, it took a huge effort to launch the game in the first place, but you're right, it didn't launch in the best state, and fans made their disappointment quite clear. And it was wonderful to see the team sort of rally around, like, okay, we take that on board and we can make it better. We can work to address these issues. We're not going to be able to solve everything, and we're not going to be able to solve everything quickly, but we can work progressively, build on it, really get to a place where the game is, a high quality title that really feels like the deserving sequel that the fans expected.
Okay.
And that has taken some time, but playing Company of Heroes 3 today is really a much fuller experience than it was at launch, and I'm very proud that we stuck with that and have continued to work on that. And I'm also proud of how we've interacted with the community and been able to listen to them, engage with them, and work to make this the game we all wanted it to be.
What drives the decision of, all right, it's not launched in the best conditions, but we want to make it work over time? And I would say, is it business decision? Is it pride? Is it we want to sort of preserve the franchise?
Well, I think creatively it goes back to that sense of responsibility towards the audience and the franchise as a whole, and really wanting to deliver on the promises that we didn't deliver on at launch, right? And we really want to dive into that. The other thing is Company of Heroes is, belongs to Relic. It's a game we created and built upon. So for us, it makes a great deal of sense to continue investing on that and continuing to build that reputation for quality and steadfastness with this project.
It's very interesting because, talking about Relic and all the different franchises, you're not doing it only for the franchise, you're doing it for Relic as a brand as well, because probably Relic is one of the few, especially in our strategy gaming area, one of the companies that has such a huge heritage you want to preserve and nurture.
Absolutely.
So that's also an interesting angle there.
I mean, we're, Relic is many things. It's an assembly of talented creators. It's a legacy, but it's a reputation for quality. And we've had some stumbles, and we needed to really refocus on that reputation for quality. And that's what rebuilding Company of Heroes 3's place in the market has been about.
One thing I'm curious about is you have been game director for the Dawn of War
Definitive
Edition. And I witnessed it, personally, how this game was basically just came out of left field, and no one was expecting it to do so well. Can you tell us, from launch, what, from your perspective, how you experienced it, really?
Yeah. Well, it was wonderful to see that it landed well with the audience, and so many people came, and new people came to it, but also lots of experienced people who had been playing the anniversary edition, the older edition of the game, for years and years, came over to play the definitive edition. And that was really, the people who kept that title alive over those 20 years is really the dedicated fans who've been playing it all along. And so when we came to do the definitive edition, we knew there was a strong community there, and we knew we needed to deliver them a product they would see value in. This remaster means a million different things to a million different gamers. You get 5 gamers together, they'll give you 12 definitions of what a remaster is. So we went with definitive edition, but the idea was to give them a stable platform on which to continue to build amazing things, play amazing games, and go forward, and just make it less, a little less friction, support ultra-wide monitors, support, in the case of the original campaign, support widescreen monitors at all, and give the art a bit of a polish.
No, it makes sense.
Really
and
good.
It's interesting because it's almost like you wish that it's the definitive edition, but it was so successful, you wish it wasn't that definitive.
Well, I'm really happy of how it's landed, and we've continued to support it. We released a community-led multiplayer balance patch just last week, or earlier this week, in fact. And
so for you, it wasn't that definitive then.
Yeah, well, we understood. So balance was an interesting thing because this is a game that's been around for 20 years. There have been balance problems for 20 years, as any RTS with 9 asymmetric armies is going to have its hiccups. And so our first priority was to deliver the title as it existed, make sure people who had been modding the game could continue to mod the game, their mods would work, and people could easily play the campaign and play multiplayer. And we spent a lot of time sort of addressing high priority bugs. But then it was clear that multiplayer balance was the next step, and we were really happy to engage with some pillars of the community to bring together some top players and really start the balancing process. And this was the first balance patch, but there will be several more. We realize balancing an RTS is not a one-time thing. You need to commit to it over time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing with a faction that you think is weaker, then you have a very clear idea of what balance means.
Yes, I mean it was very interesting to watch as the community sort of talked through all those different things, and making sure all the factions were getting some love and things were balancing out. But really they came at it with you just don't want there to be these dominant strategies that you're sort of, well, why wouldn't you do, cultist spam or whatever the particular thing is, and creating different ways to come at the game. An RTS, actually almost any strategy game, we try and make unsolvable games where there isn't one way to solve all problems, and you can come at it from different angles with different strategies. And if the game is really unbalanced, that stops being the case. So we really wanted to bring that to the players.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Phil, for the very interesting insights. We usually finish our interviews with a set of quick-fire questions.
All right.
Get ready for that.
Well, let's go.
And see how that goes. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. So 3, 2, 1. What's your favorite 40k faction?
Blood Ravens.
Blood Ravens. Okay. Tell me one single thing that you hate about the games industry.
I hate how many people have lost their jobs over the last couple of years.
That's fair. Best game you have ever worked on?
Ooh. I am proudest of the Chaos Rising expansion for Dawn of War 2.
Ooh, that was a good one. Last time something really pissed you off in game development?
When I realized, working on the definitive edition, that I was to blame for a bug I was trying to fix. Or I realized that 20 years ago, I had checked in something that broke a system, and it had stayed broken for 20 years, and then I fixed it.
You were pissed off at yourself.
I was. 20 years ago, me had made a silly mistake.
Is there a game you wish you would have designed yourself?
Oh, God. I mean, Hades and Hades 2,
okay,
those
okay,
you know,
yeah.
those games took over my life.
All right. Okay.
And I just love the, I mean, I love almost everything about those games, but the narrative design in particular, I think is really fantastic.
Because you come from narrative, right?
I
So,
do,
yeah,
I
so-
do. And, you know, I was really like, oh, wow, they really hit it out of the park, and I wish I had been part of that.
Cool. Thank you very much, Phil. It was a pleasure having you here.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Well, this is the time for Paolo's corner about tabletop. Make sure, I mean, unfortunately, we won't show you the clip where he destroyed the set completely, but we have this as a blooper. If you upvote his performance, let's see what he's got in-house for us.
Hello and welcome back to the Tabletop Corner, the place for the people who loves war games and tabletop. As expected at Adepticon 2026, we had mountains of new things for our hobby. Games Workshop, to start, unveiled the new box Terror on Devlan, a new box where a small unit of Cadians from Astra Militarum will face the Red Big Terror, a huge, gigantic tyrannid. This box is not made for competitive players, but to let people, players, friends, play together against the big monster. You can control the monster or use the rules from the joint ops to make it basically automatically. We can't wait to get this box and see how difficult it is for the Cadians to kill this big red terror. Games Workshop also released the first news about the 11th edition of Warhammer 40,000. The box that we will see before Christmas is called Armageddon. We'll have Space Marine against the usual orcs. In the new edition, we know that there will be new rules for creating the lists and also for the objectives for your games. And this very weekend, you will be able to buy the new box for Warhammer Fantasy, Spearhead City of Ash. Basically, it's a light version of Age of Sigmar, where you will find a new army of humans try to defend and protect the ruined city against the scavengers from the Skaven faction. In the box, you also find a map of Embergard, the city that have been ruined by the ruinous attack of the Skavens against the moon. And so you will be able to play easier games with your friends, just an introduction set for Warhammer Fantasy. We all know how important is the 3D printing things in our hobby. Now a lot of us uses a printer at home to print miniatures, and a lot of games already have the use and the opportunity to play with miniatures that you don't buy physically in the shops, but you print at home. Warlords released a gigantic robots for his Conflict 47 rule set that you can print at home, paint, and use to devastate your enemies. You can download for free from the Warlords community website and is very gigantic. Our friends at Warlords also sent us one of the first sprue for the Italian army, you can see. These are the Italian paratroopers. As usual, the sprue has a lot of opportunities and variation to mount your soldiers with different helmets, different berets, different weapons. There is also the usual special weapons so you can equip your unit. We hope to see the full box next month when we will have the book for the Italian armies and the first full box. With all these games and miniatures, we will have tons of miniatures to paint in the next months. As promised the last episode, we are going to show you a very effective and quick way to paint your miniatures at home with a special kind of magic paints that allows to reach a very good tabletop level painting for your games. So our friends at Army Painters sent us this huge box with the complete set, and it contains basically every color of the Speed Paint 2.0 range. This color is basically something similar to magic because while the usual colors, the usual acrylics have to dry if you want to do a very good miniatures, and you have to paint one wave after the other of different, slightly different colors of the same type to create the real look at the end, the fantastic look at the end. These colors with just one passage for each color creates different layers of part of the same color. So the result is very fantastic. There are different franchises of these colors. For example, Games Workshop have the famous contrast, but I prefer this one for two reasons. The first one is that they are very liquid, and the final effect of the 2.0 speed paint is very good looking, you will see at the end. And also it's the only range that has also the metallics. So if you want to paint miniatures with blades or metallic part, is the only way to use this kind of colors with them. Let's see how they works. So since the new Terror on Devlan will have the Tyranids, we decided to paint these old this Tyranid from an old set of mine. I just primed it, so basically there is a black base that you can spray on it, and then I spray it again with white only from the top, from where the light will come, to create this effect where there is also some shadows. This system is called pre-shadowing for this reason. It's very easy and works very well. So basically now we have a miniature that is ready to be painted with some black parts and some much more white bright that will have the highlights color at the end. We will start from the purple part of the miniature, and you can see that the color goes basically automatically, like if there were an autopilot for the color. It goes into the x-axis, so it creates with just one passage the effect of having shadows and lights. If you don't use this kind of colors, you have a better control of the color, obviously, because if you paint your own highlights and shadows, you have a better control, but at the same time you have to lose much more time. Also, these colors dry very quickly. This is the final result of the purple. Now we'll use some blue for the skin of the Tyranids. Obviously, the scheme of color can change because Tyranids comes from genetic alteration of their enemies, so you can paint the color you like. I really like this scheme. Now to have some different striking contrast, we will use the red for the fangs. Also, these colors, the speed paint, mix very well between themselves, so you can use to mix them to create your solution, or also the transition from one color to the other if you want. It just needs some exercise and some tests to understand how it works. And now we try the metallics. Obviously you can't mix, usually you can't mix contrast or this kind of ranges with other acrylic colors, so it's better to stick to the same range when you do the base. Now we don't have time to let it dry properly because it takes around 10 minutes. I will show another miniatures I painted of the same range yesterday evening that is full dry. Now you can see the scheme is very similar with green carapace and purple skin, and also you can see the different layers of the metallics. And as you can see, the level is very good for the tabletop. You can paint a full army of 20 Tyranids in one day with a very good final result. This box, as we said, is the full set, so it costs a lot. Each of these bottles costs around €4 or $4. When you plan to paint some miniatures, maybe a band of a Kill team or a Dungeons & Dragons team or something, once you have an idea of the colors you need, you just need to buy the basic to do the basic layout of the miniature, and then adding some details in the future. And as you can see in the box and in the range, there are, for example, this is the blue range with some purple, and you can start from different kind of blue and light blue, and on that you can build your color scheme. There are also some sets that are smaller, from 35 euros to 99, that allows you to create a very good starting palette for your miniatures. And now it's time, Spartan versus Covenant. For our game of the month, we will give a look to this Halo Flashpoint sent by our friends from Mantic. Basically, the game is a board game that you can play in half an hour with a friend. It's a game for two. Let's see what there is inside this big box. Here is what you find into the box. You will find 8 Spartans of the blue color, each one with different weapons. You can see that if you're familiar with the video games, you will recognize instantly the weapons that have different roles. And 8 with the red color, that is the second squad, and 4 big, huge monsters. The scenarios allows you to play red versus blue. Obviously, it's self-explanatory, like in the multiplayer version of the video game where you fight against other Spartans, or they can involve also the aliens that obviously have different rules and weapons. The rules are very easy. You can learn them. Basically, the rules are just the 15 pages of the manual, and they're based on order dice that you roll to see what you can do with your team, and shooting dice with 8 faces. And the good thing is that every time you roll an 8, I managed not to roll once, but it is like the 8 is a critical, like an headshot for the video games, so it creates a catastrophic damage to the enemy. The battles are very quick. They usually takes around 30 minutes. Maybe they can go up to 60 for the biggest and more difficult scenarios. And the method is a square one, made of cardboard box, is double faced, so you can choose the setting. Also inside the box you can find this card to create obstacles and other defense that actually are also in the video game, that provides you cover. Basically, there is the line of sight rule that is very effective and simple to learn. If you shoot to an enemy that is in the open, is more easy to kill. If you are in cover, obviously not. So it's very straightforward. You can play with friends, even if they don't play Warhammer or games like that, because it's, let's say, the limit between a board game and a true board game. Hope this voyage into the Halo board game and the secret of magic painting was interesting for you. For this month is all. See you in the next episode in May. And if you have any suggestion or anything you want to say, please remember to send an email to this address. And thank you very much, and see you next month.
Thank you, Paolo. We'll send you the bill for the walls you've destroyed during the recording. I know your address. My next guest today is the CEO of Lightbulb, developer Lightbulb Crew, and the publisher Fire Squid Games, Anders Larsson. Anders, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Anders, I've met you. And of course, I didn't remember it because I'm getting old and I don't remember much. I met you a long time ago when you were presenting your first game at some show in Paris, and that first game was Other Side. Mm-hmm. Long time has passed. Can you tell us, how did you get into the?
Yeah, well, actually, Other Side wasn't our first game. The first game we made was a game called Games of Glory, which was a kind of tactical or a twin-stick shooter MOBA, was what we called it. Okay. And we did it on as a kind of cross-play competitive title on PlayStation and PC. It came out in 2017. I'm very proud of the game, and it was an absolute disaster financially.
Okay.
But we managed to take that team and kind of turn it around, and then developed Other Side from that. And Other Side was one of the early kind of roguelite tactical turn-based games, and it was inspired by the big guys in the genre like XCOM, but had a lot of new innovations and a very strong artistic direction.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think you were one of the first, amongst the first games that were trying to match, strong core game mechanics with a very strong artistic angle, like edge, I would say.
Yeah, we have this, even back then, the gaming development area was very competitive, right? And so we were a young studio, and to me it felt like it's important that all aspects of a game is a reason for players to kind of to start playing it, the famous hook. And so the same goes for example, with the music and also with the art direction. So we really try to make the game stand out in all of those aspects. And on top of that, we have obviously the core mechanics, which are necessary for a tactical or a strategy game to succeed.
Do you think that art is more important, less important now, or the hook is more important, less important now?
I think it really varies, on the specific subgenre on where you're playing. In general, I think art is very important, and art, I think, can be one of these things that pulls people in to actually wishlist the game before they have tried it, before they play the demo, before the you get more hands-on thing, because there has to be something that converts, somebody visiting your Steam page to actually clicking to that on that thing. And I think there art can be a strong reason to do that. You see something that really appeals to you. But the problem with art is it's not enough that it's beautiful art. It has to be beautiful art for the right type of game, for that specific audience. And
you've got a relationship with art because you're very much into music. You're movie. You're in cinema as well. So it's movies and so on. So
actually, I got into art through video games.
Okay.
Because when I realized the importance of art, that's when I learned about art in school and all that kind of stuff. But the importance of it, at one point I was like, what are the components of art? What is it that makes it interesting? So even understanding the techniques of the old masters and stuff like that. It's amazing to nowadays, when I have a little bit more understanding, go to art museums and so on. And we even had a project that we were working on as an R&D project for quite some time, that I hope one day can see the light of day, where we try to kind of recreate painting style, a painting style art direction in an RPG game. Okay. It's very hard.
It is very hard. It's interesting because you're not French, but you're in France with your team is mostly French, and I think there is a trend, I would say, that French developers are more artistic. Is it a thing?
I think it could be. I think art is in general appreciated in French society. Art gets lots of support by French society. There is even an employment form specific for artists and singers and so on that is unique to France, I think, pretty much. And so I think there is some reality to it, definitely. And
that's really interesting. I mean, it's like finding angles has always been a thing, and especially in today's market where you have 25,000 releases a year, you do need an angle which is, as you say, the core thing has to be solid and working and everything, but this initial way of attracting players, and just to say, okay, let's stop and take a look at what it is, then it has to be visual. It cannot be music, right? Music is a second element.
But the funny thing is, I actually met players that got into Other Side through the music.
Wow.
They discovered the game through their Spotify metal list, and they heard some of the songs that that was found pretty decent success on Spotify. and they came into the game that way. So it can happen. Obviously, it's not big numbers,
it's not the rule.
right? It's not, but it can happen. And
how do you choose music for a game?
For somebody who's not a game developer, the first important thing is that you have to make unique music for a game, and you have to make unique music because for example, early on for Other Side, we really quickly wanted, because of the theme, and we just liked that style, we wanted like metal music in Other Side. And we're having kind of a metal-inspired music as well in Exsanguis in our next game. So we were thinking about maybe if we just buy some existing great songs. It doesn't work because if a content maker or an influencer then makes a video about your game, they won't be able to make money off of it.
Yeah.
So you have to make new music, and we try to create music that kind of fits the theme and the mood, and also maybe stuff that is underused sometimes. So that was what we wanted when it came to the metal in Other Side. That was part of the reason why we went for that, and also me and the art director for that game. We were
I mean, I guess also Northern Europe is more into that kind of music as well, right? It comes with a heritage, that's for sure. How much do you try and use your players' feedback when you develop games? Was it something that changed over time?
We always wanted to use it, even from the beginning when we were trying to started to develop Games of Glory many years ago now. And the tools have evolved over time, and so now we have a Discord server with a few thousand players that are mostly Other Side fans, and we work very interactively with them, have them try early versions of the game. They even tried that game a game that we never announced. We just did the playtest with them to see what was working, what was not working, and so on. Really try to make them feel involved and important to the development of the game. But then you also have these people that we can reach through Steam, and there's a function in Steam. It's called the playtest, and through that you can reach thousands of players that are not already directly into our closest community, and we merge those feedbacks with each other. And the trick is really to extract what's actionable, because player will tell you, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, but going from that to say, okay, if we change this in this direction, they will like it. Okay. And the other problem is that if we take, for example, hardcore fans of Other Side, that they're used to a certain type of gameplay, they like a certain type of challenge, but with our next game, we want to broaden it a little bit. So we have to interpret it and say, okay, we have to improve this, but not to go too far that way to kind of push other players away. Because if we go too deep into that, you kind of you close the doors, and it will be harder for somebody who is not into that universe to get in.
It's interesting, and I guess that you're trying to cater to an audience that will probably like your game. So your potential audience is, because when you try and broaden, you start having people playing the game that would probably never buy your game, spend money to buy your game. So it's very hard to filter, is this a potential buyer, or is it just like, do you have such thing as a community? Is it because, for a game, you've got like your fans of this game, how do you then develop a community out of this?
I think it's an ongoing process. Because our last game we released was kind of in a different niche and didn't really have the same audience. That was a little bit of a lost opportunity for us to kind of strengthen this community. Now we're going back. Part of the reason why we're going back to a game that is heavily inspired by Other Side is to kind of leverage the community that we already have and that we like and we understand, and use that going forward, and hopefully then strengthen it over time. So that's the goal. And
that game is Ex Sanguis, which is
yes.
Is it a sequel? Is it or?
It's not a sequel. It's inspired by Other Side. It is also kind of a. In this case, the world has already ended, and you're trying to make it get reborn through recovering the sanguis, the blood that was sucked up by these enemies, and you have to kill bosses and all that kind of stuff to do it. It uses similar inspired art styles, similarly inspired by Other Side, while being its own thing. So we're trying to recreate it within a kind of recognizable context. So but the world is completely different.
Do you think there's you've got like a decent catalog, right, of games that you release over the years? Do you think that that Lightbulb Crew and Fire Squid, which is the publishing arm of Lightbulb, do you think that your games have like common traits? Can you recognize the common traits that would build a community or would build a following? For both Fire Squid and Lightbulb Crew, we do strategy and tactics games. There is a twist on the Lightbulb Crew side. We want to have a story component to it, while Fire Squid could do something that is purely strategic or purely tactical. However, we see that even though they kind of overlap a little bit, games like a management game has strategic components to it, but it's not the same, or it's very limited overlap between that and kind of a tactics games. Yeah.
So I think it's easier to create a community around kind of these tighter verticals, like around tactical games or around grand strategy games, like the Paradox. I think that the Paradox game, a lot of them have overlap between purchases of Europa Universalis or Hearts of Iron, etc.
Yeah.
And for us, like at Fire Squid, we have Rios 2, for example, that is a super interesting god game, but there's very little overlap with that and kind of the grand strategy game.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. But an interesting thing is that at Fire Squid, you started an event dedicated to tactical games. Was it 4 or 5 years ago?
4 or 5 years ago. I think it's
called
actually.
Tacticon, which is now like a regular annual event on Steam, right? Which has become like pretty big, right?
We have a great relationship with Steam, and Tacticon was really highly inspired by Ludonarracon. I think they were the first ones.
Yeah. Okay. So that like a segmented, vertical event.
Exactly. And for Ludonarracon, their idea was to create this space for this kind of underserved genre, and for the fans of that genre. And we thought, the same thing should really happen for strategy games. And it became a really great vehicle for. We're not making anything off of it. We're doing it as a service to the fans and the developers as a whole. But it's become a great way for us to. We talked about this earlier, to create friends in the industry, because we give through Tacticon, or Tacticon really gives players a chance to discover completely new games that they would never have discovered before. Did
you have any like super success story that you've thanks to Tacticon, a game got pretty visible and
absolutely? We have multiple of those. Some games that got sold, that signed the publisher just after it.
Okay.
Some games that decided, they did so well that they had, they just continued to ride the wishlist gain from that. I don't want to. I haven't asked them if I should talk about them, but so I don't want to name any names.
No,
but that is one of the things that makes me very proud. Like that can be a 2-man team or a 1-man team, and they went from nothing. And when they gave them the opportunity to meet their audience, there was this fantastic click. I love that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's great. And you're like, how's it work? You get submissions of games?
People submit games now. For this year's Tacticon submissions have already closed about a month or so ago. But for next year, make sure to keep your eyes out in around. If you're working with strategy games, or especially now as Steam events have been gotten more and more prolific, we have been now this year we're focusing more clearly on the tactical games. But even though we're focusing on tactical games, we had like 900 game submissions this year, and so my team has been working like super hard to sift through that and select the 100 or so that we include in the event.
So it's 100 games. Is there a criteria? Is there, what's the?
So what we're using, the big existing games, so we have great relationships with different developers, and we have some big name games that are in there. We have worked together with Hooded Horse, for example, to organize this event for a long time.
Okay.
So we have this pool of existing games. They have to be pretty recent, so that they're still new and interesting for the audience. They do discounts that pulls in people to the page, and they let them then discover these other games. And so for the demos, etc., it's something you want something that is a great experience and generate something new for the audience.
No, that makes sense, and I think it's a sense of interest. It's interesting sense of service to the community and the industry, and it's kind of the same thing we're doing here. Like where you're trying to, like, I'm not a big fan of the idea of I don't think there's competition per se, because then the players will choose. So it's almost like it's visibility rounds is what we need across the industry, and the more there is
for you looking, visibility rounds is something that it's a tool on the Steam platform you can use, that they will let Steam show your game to more people.
More people, and it's usually millions of people. And hopefully targeted, we don't know.
Like everything with Steam, it's all a big black box.
I know. One point, Anders, on so many different games you work on, from a development perspective, from a publishing perspective. I mean, you come from a very creative angle. Are you able to sort of give your creative input in all these games? Do you do it only for selected games?
So me personally, I work mostly with our own games, but and also with the selection of the games for Fire Squid. For the Fire Squid side, we're like a full, as they call, like a full service publisher. So we work with the developers weekly, test their builds intensely, and have very constructive feedback, and try to make the best game they can. And for Exsanguis, for example, and other side, my job is to try to give a direction of this type of experience we want to have, and then I have a team that is working with me around the game design and all the visuals and all that kind of stuff, and I help. When it's needed to take decisions, I'm the one that has the final say, whether we go with this one or this other version, etc. But I have a fantastic team of designers and artists and so on that work with me. It makes it a pleasure.
And you were mentioning Exsanguis was planned to release...
Was planned to release on your birthday.
Oh my goodness.
But we had a meeting on Monday, and we said, wow, we have the components of a great game here, but it's not yet a great game. And there was just as an effect of a recent playtest round and also our internal feelings.
Okay.
So we have the components there. We need to adapt the recipe a little bit, and hopefully within a few months we'll be able to
put them back into the blender.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
And nevertheless, there's a game coming out in a few weeks. Is it?
Yes, Fire Squid has a game coming out called Vultures, Scavengers of Death. It's a very cool kind of survival horror tactical game that everybody should check out. I was hooked immediately when I played kind of the demo when they pitched the game to us.
What's the premise there? Is that
It's a zombie it's a zombie game, zombie killing game, and it's you have this survival feeling through lack of resources. Every round that you use has to be used judiciously. You have cool monsters. You have even some kind of jump scary type stuff.
Ooh.
It is a really unique tactical game, and because for me tactical games normally it's like the combination of lots of different things. This is by reduction actually. So you really have to think about it because you have so limited things.
Shortage of skills and items.
Yeah.
Sounds like an interesting one. Well, Anders, we usually finish our interviews with quick fire questions, which is about shortage of time to answer. So I've got 5 questions for you here, but thank you for joining us in the show. It's been great to hear your story, and it's just great to see that there are other companies trying to sort of give some good out instead of just being very closed within themselves. So that's great. All right, so are we ready?
Yes.
That's cool. Very good, very good. So 3, 2, 1, let's go. Is there a thing that you really love about the games industry?
Yes, this openness and sharing, and that everybody is passionate about what they do.
Working on so many games, what's the hardest thing you think there is in game development?
The hardest thing is to match mechanics and art with the expectations of the players.
All right. Do you have like 3 things in random order that you really miss about Sweden?
It is not the food. I miss Junes in Sweden, because in June the sun is finally up and everybody is young and beautiful and smiling. Okay. I miss going to parties and coming home at 3 o'clock in the morning and the sun is already up.
Okay.
But I don't miss when you try to sleep in the morning and you forgot to close the blinds and the sun is up at 4 o'clock in the morning and now you can't sleep anymore.
All right. What do you think is the biggest issue in today's industry?
It's weird, but I think it depends on who you are. The best thing for players right now is so many good games. The worst thing for developers right now is that there are so many good games, and it's hard. Yeah.
Talking about it, one game that you really, really look forward to playing.
Yeah, I actually look forward to playing our next game, not the Exanglis, but the game that comes after that. That I think is going to be fantastic.
That was interesting. Thank you very much, Anders.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Take care.
All righty, guys. So we have a little bit of a nut break now, and we'll be back with our, very good friend, Tudi Kiri, in a second. And we're back with the wonderful and always smiling Tudi Kiri. Hi Kiri, how are you?
Hi Marco, I'm great. How are you?
Imagine if you were showing up and you were just crying. How are you?
No, good. Busy times.
Busy
So-
times?
You were actually just talking about it. There's so many cool games out now. So for gamers, it's great.
It's very, very, very good time. Yeah, absolutely. One of the, I actually spoiler. I have a list of the games we're going to talk about. So,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, the first game I have in the list is a game that's releasing tomorrow. So I'll leave it for
Yes.
last. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
There's a game you can pick the one of the other two, but there's a game I'm really interested in, really interested in, because I don't even know anything about it, so I'm looking forward to that one. But
Let's
go
start
for
with
it.
that then.
Yeah, let's do that.
I assume that's Whispers of the Eyeless, because
Yes.
the other one on the list you already mentioned as well. So, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whispers of
So
the
what's it all
Eyeless.
about?
That was a random found. I don't think a lot of people know about it. So it's a 2D game. The art style reminds of a cartoon, of a comic, also Darkest Dungeon. It has very dark fantasy vibes, and you are evil, first of all, which I find very appealing in a game. Very important. It's a strategy RPG. You are the cult leader. So you hire cultists, you manage them, and you want to awaken gods, evil gods. And then you go around, there's some side quests, so there's lore. The atmosphere is really, really good. Very, very dark and a good vibe. I know that sounds weird in that one sentence, but they're just conveying that really well. And
Just as a horror movie is attractive, right? So
right?
you can't unsee it.
And so there's combat that is turn-based combat, also kind of in the Darkest Dungeon vibe, and it's got cool animations and voice acting, and it was so surprising to me because I hadn't heard about this. They just reached out to me via email. I'm like, yeah, that looks really cool. It's a strategy game. I'm gonna give it a try, and I was positively surprised. I've not
really cool.
played all too much yet, but it looks really cool.
Is there like an ongoing storyline that you're playing? So you want to find
Yes.
out how it's all right? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's,
exactly. There's a story that you play through. So I don't know how much replay value it has, because you're always going to be that one person forming the cult, hiring the cultists, and then eventually awaken the gods, I assume. So I'm not sure how often you're going to play that, but at least once playing through the story.
That's
I enjoyed
really
the
cool.
start of it.
I want to play it now. This just been released. I've seen on the trailer, right? Just about
Oh, yeah.
mid-March. Yeah.
Exactly, because it was an early access, apparently, for, I don't know, some time. And in March, it released into 1.0. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's time to give it a try and sort of shed some light on these indie games that are really bringing something different. So thanks for highlighting it. Next one.
Xenonauts 2. You mentioned that
Oh,
at
wow.
the start. So
Yeah.
good. Another game that was in early access for quite a while and just recently released as 1.0. I'm going to say XCOM-like because XCOM kind of defined the genre. So it is isometric, it has that retro look, and it's a turn-based tactical game. You fight a global war against aliens, and it's difficult. It is really difficult.
Okay.
You have hit percent chances. You just fail them all, basically. That's what it feels like. It's really good. I'm enjoying it. There's also combat where you have fighters, like fighter planes, and you can manually fight against the UFOs.
Okay.
So you have that aspect. You have the management aspect of having bases across the world and noticing when UFOs are in range, and then you need to do something. And then you also have those missions where you're actually on the ground with your team and have that tactical mission of running around killing aliens, or maybe rescuing civilians. That could also happen. And fighting against that threat.
Wow.
I've not succeeded yet, but I'm on it.
Right, Kiri, what's your relationship with early access? How do you see it? Do you enjoy? Do you wait for 1.0? What's your vibe
Difficult.
about it? Yeah.
There are so many early access games, and on the one hand, that is good because usually the developers want to work closer with the community and the players and are receptive to feedback, which is really nice. On the other hand, it's an unfinished game. And usually those early access games are very buggy. And that can be frustrating for the player as well. So for me, this is my job. And since I am playing lots of indie games and also lots of new games, I play so many early access games. I am somewhat fed up with them, honestly. I'm very happy when a game just releases and it's finished.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I do like checking out new games and maybe finding something really cool, and then also providing feedback with, you've got a really good idea here. That mechanic is awesome, but maybe it needs something else, something different, some, quality of life stuff. And so it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. I guess
I prefer
that's,
1.0, but also play lots of early access games.
I mean, I guess the next one you're releasing in early access, but you cannot not play it, right? You cannot not give it a go, right?
Exactly. So the next one is Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. And I know it's releasing tomorrow, but perks of the job, I probably played 16, 18 hours in that, actually.
Okay.
I got advanced access to the early access. It is so good. It's really cool. So Heroes of Might and Magic, if you don't know it, it's a fantasy strategy game. It is turn-based. You build your empire. So you have heroes that have stacks of armies in them. So you just move the hero across the map, turn-based. You gather some resource piles that are on the ground. You get some buffs. You fight neutral armies. You fight other heroes. Like either is that another player, because multiplayer is already in the game, or it is AI that you play against. And then you fight those battles. They are tactical, they're turn-based. Those battles have hexagons. Very important for strategy gamers.
Okay.
Magic is very important. You've got a spell book, lots and lots of spells. 6 factions right now. I'm actually not sure if they're going to add more. I think 6 factions might just be it.
All right.
And there are several game modes. So you can play, as I already mentioned, there is multiplayer if you want to. There's even multiplayer with synchronous turns. So everybody plays at the same time, which is experimental, but I've tried it and it works. So that's really nice if you don't have that much time and you can't wait for 3 other people to do their turn before your turn. Other than that, there's classic mode. So you have several heroes moving about. There is a single hero mode, which is a faster version, because then you only have that one hero and the enemy only has one hero. And there are scenarios, which are really cool, because they are shorter. They've got their own kind of small story that is finished. Okay. And they may have different mechanics. Like there's one scenario where you are kind of a fantastical cat. You have unlimited movement points and you just walk around the map trying to find a way to the other cats, the cat paradise, really. Sounds a bit ridiculous, but it makes sense and it really works. And then, of course, there's the campaign. But I only played the first mission because I didn't want to spoil my community.
All right, okay.
But also that one is really cool.
It sounds like for being an early access, there's already masses of content, right?
It is. And it's also so polished. Yeah. Because we were talking about early access games and some of them are really very buggy. This one, sure, a handful of bugs, but nothing game-breaking, and it feels very polished. And I think they have to do that because Heroes of Might and Magic is such a huge franchise. They can't really afford having a buggy game on release, even if it's early access.
That makes sense. Well, I guess we know what we're going to play on the weekend then. That's
absolutely. Tomorrow it releases, so...
Something to look forward to. Kiri, I know that we have it's a busy time, and so you've got a lot of stuff to play. So good luck with the next few weeks of playing new games and introducing new products to your audience. And thanks a lot for sharing your insights with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. All right, guys. So just gonna finish with some Slitherine news. We have to, and of course, it's something we really want to sort of use this show to sort of give you some information about what we have just been up to. I have to sort of shout out to the pre-show we've had today with the guys of the Scramble development team playing for the pilot today. I overheard in the office this pilot day will be remembered forever from Daniela. So it was it's such a great game that I'm happy that we had a chance to show it before the hot seat. And congrats to the team who building such a great game, an early access game, but with very limited number of bugs. So. Pretty proud of that. Congrats to the team there. What is new for us? Very quickly, of course, we've released 2 big DLCs recently. One for Field of Glory Kingdoms called Burgers and Bombards, and this one was just released. And the other one has been the latest DLC for Shadow Empire game called Republica. Great to see that after all these years, Shadow Empire is still, community is still so reactive to new content. The game is doing super well, and it's also helped the main game to increase in players and player count, which is incredible considering the complexity and the depth of this game. It's an absolute gem, and Republic is adding a lot more to it. We finally had some good vibe streams and news for Broken Arrow from the community, which I'm very happy about. We've sort of looking at, and we're discussing this with Phil earlier on. How committed you have to be on a game that has such an engaged community. We've launched the Broken Arrow PTE, public testing environment, to test new features and test balancing acts just recently out of the release of the Baltic Battalion DLC. This has been a successful launch for us, and also sort of a stepping stone for the future, because we have actually seen that this type of sort of testing environment is well received by the players. We also sort of split the community between the community wants to sort of test what's coming, and the community wants to really experience what is already there. So it's been an interesting launch, and we'll update you with more in the future, because of course, knowing that this works, there's going to be more developments in this regard. Guys, thank you for joining us. Do we have a list of the next guests? Okay. I was almost forgetting. Not a strategy game, but we have announced today, so it's fresh news that Modern Naval Warfare, the Virginia-class nuclear submarine simulator, is coming out on May 18th, so just before my birthday. We have just announced it, so it was only duty to sort of tell you that this was just announced. And the guests for next episode of the Hot Seat are Mark Webley of 2 Points, and Alessio Cavatore, the designer of very popular miniature war games like Bolt Action. Very special guests next month, so stay with us. There's going to be a further announcements as we approach the next episode, but otherwise I will see you next month, last Wednesday of the month. Goodbye.